The crowd was buzzing. Cameras were rolling. A voice that had echoed across America's college campuses was about to speak again. But within moments, that voice was silenced forever. Charlie Kirk was not just another political activist. He was a firebrand, a disruptor, a man who turned college cafeterias into battlefields of ideas. Loved by some, hated by many, but ignored by no one. He built an empire on debates, controversies, and the sheer force of his will. But on September 10, 2025, during a seemingly ordinary campus event in Utah, history took a deadly turn. In front of shocked students and a stunned nation, Charlie Kirk's life was cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. Tonight, we dive into the shocking story of Charlie Kirk. His rise from a suburban Illinois teenager to the leader of America's most powerful conservative youth movement. His wars with critics, his devotion to his beliefs, and the tragic final moments that shook an entire country. This is not just a biography. This is the rise and fall of one of the most controversial voices of his generation. Charlie Kirk was born on October 14, 1993, in Arlington Heights, Illinois. He grew up in Prospect Heights, just another suburban kid in Middle America. But beneath the surface, there was a burning sense of destiny. From a young age, Charlie noticed something others ignored. On television, in schools, and especially on college campuses, liberal ideas dominated the conversation. Conservative voices, he believed, were being drowned out. He wasn't a prodigy. He didn't go to an Ivy League school. In fact, he didn't even finish college. But what he lacked in academic prestige, he made up for with raw ambition. While most teenagers worried about prom and video games, Charlie was obsessed with politics. At just 18 years old in 2012, he co-founded Turning Point USA. The idea was simple but explosive: create an army of young conservatives who would fight back against what he saw as liberal dominance in schools and culture. Turning Point started small, but Charlie had the energy of a man on a mission. He didn't just want to debate in classrooms, he wanted to transform the culture. He had one goal: to make conservatism cool, bold, and impossible to ignore. Turning Point USA grew like wildfire. College by college, event by event, Charlie Kirk built a network of passionate young activists. By the mid-2010s, his movement had chapters in hundreds of campuses across America. Charlie's style was unique. He didn't lecture. He challenged. He would sit at a simple table with a sign that read, "Prove me wrong." Students who disagreed with him were invited to debate, often with cameras rolling. These fiery exchanges went viral online. Supporters saw him as a fearless warrior for free speech. Critics accused him of staging confrontations for clout. But one thing was undeniable: Charlie knew how to get attention. Then came his biggest leap, the Trump era. Charlie quickly became one of Donald Trump's most vocal supporters among young people. Turning Point USA threw its weight behind Trump's campaigns, hosting flashy conferences, inviting conservative celebrities, and giving Kirk a national platform. He wasn't just a student organizer anymore. He was rubbing shoulders with the most powerful figures in Washington. He launched The Charlie Kirk Show, a podcast and radio program that drew millions of listeners. Suddenly, the kid from Illinois was one of the most recognized conservative voices in America. But with fame came backlash. Charlie thrived on confrontation. He was bold, unfiltered, and unapologetic. That's exactly why he became a lightning rod for criticism. Liberals accused him of spreading misinformation. Progressives said he fueled division. Some even labeled him dangerous. On campuses, his events were often met with massive protests. Students held signs, chanted slogans, and tried to shut him down. But Charlie loved the fight. For him, every protest was proof that his message mattered. The bigger the crowd of angry opponents, the louder his supporters cheered. He was also outspoken on social issues, faith, and what he saw as the cultural decline of America. To his base, he was a hero, a fearless Christian conservative standing tall against the radical left. To his critics, he was a provocateur who thrived on outrage. The truth? He was both. And he knew it. Controversy was his oxygen. Every headline, whether praise or condemnation, only made him stronger. But this intensity came with a cost. America was becoming more polarized than ever, and Charlie Kirk stood at the heart of that storm. Utah Valley University, Orem, Utah. It was supposed to be just another stop on Charlie Kirk's American Comeback Tour. The setting was familiar, a crowded hall, young faces eager, some excited, some ready to challenge him. Cameras pointed at the stage. Security was present, but the atmosphere felt routine. Charlie walked in with his trademark confidence. He set up his debate-style table. The sign read once again, "Prove me wrong." Students gathered, ready to argue, ready to witness another classic Kirk showdown. The debate began. Tense exchanges, heated words, laughter, and clapping. For Charlie, this was just another day of doing what he loved, fighting for his beliefs, sparking arguments, owning the stage. But then, it happened. A loud crack split the air. For a moment, no one understood what it was. Some thought it was a microphone glitch. Others thought it was part of the noise in the room. But then screams erupted. People ducked for cover. Panic spread like fire. Charlie Kirk collapsed. Blood. Chaos. Security rushed. Students screamed. Cameras captured every second. In the blink of an eye, the man who had built an empire of words was silenced by a bullet. News spread instantly. Social media exploded. Charlie Kirk shot dead. The headlines were everywhere within minutes. Supporters were devastated. Critics were stunned. Politicians, celebrities, rivals, and friends. Everyone reacted. For some, it was the loss of a leader. For others, it was a terrifying sign of just how dangerous America's political climate had become. Charlie Kirk's death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a reflection of a nation at war with itself. He was only 31 years old. In less than 2 decades, he had gone from a suburban teenager to a national figure who shaped the conversation on campuses and in politics. His supporters vowed to continue his mission. Turning Point USA announced they would carry his torch, spreading his message across America. His podcast episodes, his viral debates, his speeches, all became memorials to a man who lived fast, fought hard, and died too soon. But questions remain. Did Charlie's confrontational style contribute to the dangerous polarization that ultimately led to his violent end? Or was he simply a victim of a culture where political violence is rising out of control? One thing is certain. Charlie Kirk will be remembered not as a quiet intellectual, but as a fighter. A man who forced America to look at its divisions, whether it wanted to or not. From the suburbs of Illinois to the national stage, from student debates to viral fame, from fiery speeches to a tragic end. Charlie Kirk's story is one of passion, controversy, and shock. Love him or hate him, you cannot deny his impact. He shaped conversations, challenged norms, and left behind a movement that will continue long after his death. But his story is also a warning about words, about division, and about what happens when political battles spill into real life. Charlie Kirk lived like a fighter. He died in the fight, and his name will never be forgotten.